And again, it's happening at these very high megahertz rates. Machine evolution will not be like human evolution, because what it took us 50,000 years to achieve, it can achieve potentially through distributed processing in minutes, hours. Hans Moravec says of artificial intelligence, we may never know what hit us. It will simply come to be. And what would that look like? We have no idea, or its relationship to us at all. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but it's like that. Novelty theory and Rupert's theories of the morphogenetic field are very closely related. He doesn't believe in a temporal attractor. He believes things are pushed by necessary casuistry. But the unfolding of the morphogenetic field and the unfolding of the time wave, you're talking about the same thing. You're talking about the fourth. You see, in a way, what science is all about is it will tell you what is possible. If you want to know if something is possible, you ask the expert in that science. But what science can't tell you, and what you usually really want to know, is out of the class of the possible, what things will actually occur. And we have no theory for this, strangely enough. We have no theory for out of the class of the I suppose somebody who was a fundamentalist or some kind of Christian might say, well, God's will. Out of the class of what is possible, what comes to be is God's will. Well, that would be one theory of what it is that winnows the actual from the possible. A scientist would say pre-existing conditions. In other words, somehow the circumstances into which any phenomenon is born skew it toward its ultimate developmental end state. This is the idea. It's almost like the law of karma or something, that by the circumstances into which you find yourself, that you are carried forward to some conclusion that was inevitable based on that. Novelty theory is not predestination. It doesn't say that the future has happened. If you believe the future has happened, you have all kinds of philosophical problems on your hands. Because, for truth as a concept to have any meaning, you have to have error. If you think what you think because you can't think anything else, which is what predestination is, well then what does the search for truth and meaning look like in a cosmos like that? It's meaningless, no. In a predestined cosmos, you think what you think because that's what you think and you can't think anything else, and it doesn't have anything to do with truth. So there must be at least that much freedom to err in the mind. But of course, the mind through the body is an extension into the world. For all the huffing and puffing of modern science and neurophysiology, they still can't tell you how you can think, I will close my hand and close it. This is mind over matter. This is telekinesis. This is science is just completely baffled as to how this can take place at all. It's a fundamental miracle. Been good for 5,000 years, still knocking them dead. And it's by that trick that we don't understand how it's done that will and mind and intent enters the world, and cities get built and armies sent marching and religious revelations written down and so forth and so on. But I think that You see, for years I was like crying in the wilderness about this ramping up towards some kind of hyper-complex unravelment of the social machine in the very short term. But now I feel much more confident than I was 10 years ago. Now 10 years closer to the end date, because the internet looks to me like the backbone of the emergent thing. I mean, the internet is a huge and not fully comprehended cultural step that we have now totally committed ourselves to. It's nothing less than the building of a thinking nervous system the size of the entire planet. And our most important, we're wedded to this thing. Our banking, military planning, corporate capitalization, long-term planning, design process, inventory control, resource extraction, everything is running on this strange companion that we built to be indestructible because we built it at the height of the Cold War. And so, it has no nodes of control, and it's the most complex thing ever put in place on this planet since DNA, cooked itself out of the primal ocean. You put your finger on it. It's that to the degree that people are psychedelic, they will be less anxious about what will happen. Because what psychedelics show you is that there is life after history. There is something outside of culture. If you don't know that, by one means or another, then you will define what is happening as, the end of the world, the literal apocalypse, the collapse of everything, when in fact that's not what it is. It's just the collapse of historical, print-based, cultural models and models of the self and the psyche. I embrace it. I mean, we're not about to blow out here or go extinct, and we never escaped from the yoke of nature. Nature has taken some hits in this neighborhood. 65 million years ago, an object encountered the Earth that nothing larger than a chicken on the entire planet survived that encounter. And guess what it cleared the way for? The flowering plants, the source of all these compounds we're so interested in, and the ascendancy of the mammalian order, our dear selves. We are here because of the most appalling bad hair day this planet ever endured. So, when you start judging this stuff and saying, what's good, what's bad, it's very hard to say. Nature is incredibly profligate and will take enormous chances to preserve novelty, to keep the novelty game going. And so I feel, that in a sense nature will open a way for us. Nature is interested in this process. We represent the greatest step in organizational realignment and redesign since life left the oceans. Yeah. This relates to a question which was unanswered here this morning, which was about teleology. The Darwinian theory of evolution is very hostile to teleology. First of all, what is teleology? Teleology is the idea that the universe has a purpose. And Darwinian evolution is hostile to this because Darwinian evolution arose in 19th century England, where the reigning intellectual paradigm was called deism. And deism is the idea that God made the universe like a clockmaker, and then he went away and left it going. In other words, the divine clockmaker. The universe was structured by a force which has now withdrawn from it. And Darwin and his circle were very clearly atheistic, and they wanted to see biology as requiring no purpose to direct it at all. And so they created the dual concept of random mutation and natural selection